Welcome to Experts and Authorities. I'm Lynn Hawks, your host, and with me today is Haleh Damavandi, a peak performance expert and founder of Quantum Leap Performance Academy in Tampa, Florida. Haleh and her team specialize in working with elite professional, college, and high school athletes to achieve mental and physical peak performance and to reach their maximum potential. Haleh is a licensed psychotherapist with a doctorate in psychology. She also holds a black belt in Taekwondo and is passionate about helping her clients persevere through life's challenges, overcome obstacles, and attain their goals. Welcome, Haleh.
Hi, Lynn. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to hear about performance coaching. You hear a lot about those terms, or you see them a lot in the news, but I really don't understand what that means. So can you tell me a little bit about what peak performance coaching is?
Peak performance coaching is taking an evaluation of where someone is at, an assessment, so to speak, and finding out where they're falling short, so where their blocks are, and then coming up with a program on how to take that athlete to the next level.
So now you mentioned athlete. Can this apply to a person who maybe isn't necessarily a professional athlete, but just wants to be at the top of their game, if they're a runner, a personal runner, or a tennis player, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. It can apply to any athlete in any sport.
Mm-hmm. But now your expertise, which I find very interesting, is the professional or the aspiring professional athlete.
Yes, it is.
Tell me how you discovered this love of working with athletes and your peak performance coaching.
I've always had a love for the athletic performance. I was working with clients that wanted to improve their health and fitness. And in working with those clients, we started identifying where they were having blocks. I had a professional athlete that heard about the work I was doing, and he consulted with me. And at that point, that performance psychology took on a life of its own. I started working with athletes, one athlete after another, heard about my work, and then from that point forward, it exploded.
And from there, the Quantum Leap Performance Academy was born, or it's evolving now, and it's just going like crazy.
From that work, Quantum Leap Performance Academy was born. And I realized there were pieces that we needed in helping these athletes and having a place where they could come and get everything that they needed from all the experts in their field.
And I love that you have the team approach with the nutritionist and the fitness coach and the sports coach, and then the psychology or the mental element.
We cover all the bases, everything that it takes to take that athlete to the next level.
And you confer, so it's all very cohesive.
Absolutely, and that's a beautiful word, and that's what I use as well, that we work in a cohesive environment to make sure we're all on the same page. It's not like one expert saying to do this and not talking to the other one. Everyone is in sync, because our goal is to help them get results and achieve optimal performance.
Now tell me about you used a word off camera, which is fabulous, congruency.
I think congruency in any area of your life is extremely important. And when you see incongruency, that's when you see the breakdown in the system where people aren't performing to the level that they need to be performing.
What intrigues you most about working with professional or burgeoning on the cusp professional athletes? I think it would be fascinating, but what do you love about it?
That's a great question, Lynn, that I get asked all the time. What I love most about working with that client base is their motivation. They're highly motivated to take whatever it is to the next level. Their performance, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, to the next level. So there's they may be experiencing blocks, but they will do whatever it takes. Whatever you ask them to do, they're going to do. Unlike a lot of people who, when you're working with them, they want a quick fix. Athletes know that it takes time and dedication, and they're committed to the process.
Do you meet with your client early on and ask them what they want to accomplish, or do you tell them what they need to accomplish? How does that work?
Well, great question again. I do meet with my clients early on. The first meeting, the initial meeting, is we're establishing what it is that they're wanting to obtain. Unlocking the block in what area of their life by doing an assessment. And I tell them we're kind of like archaeologists. We're going to climb in internally into their head and find out where they're not becoming the best they can be in their sport.
Getting into the athlete's head, becoming an archaeologist, what a concept. That suggests that you might uncover things they're not even aware of.
When you're working with an athlete on any level, they've been playing their sport since they were knee high. So I'm not the expert in their sport. I'm not about to tell them how they can play their sport better. That is not peak performance. What I do is I find out where their block is. As an athlete, they may have experienced a sports injury. They may have experienced humiliation. They may have experienced trauma of some nature in playing their sport. They may experience frustration. All of that gets locked in their system internally, and it starts building over time and time again. And what we do is we find out where that original source of trauma was internally, and then we unlock it.
When we come back, we will talk about Quantum Peak Performance Academy. I'm Lynn Hawks, your host with the Experts and Authorities. This coaching that you do, it's not on the field, it's not in the locker room, it's in a controlled conversational setting, is that correct?
Actually, it can be on the field, on their playing field.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
I do work with them one-on-one in a private setting. However, whatever the block is in their sport, if I'm working with a baseball player, many times I'll go out to the field with them. And I may even work on them putting a blindfold on so they can really be connected with their body and find out where their body's feeling the block.
Mm-hmm. Now, I understand you do a lot of coaching in golf.
Yes.
And also, do you do some work in tennis?
I do tennis. There's no sport that I don't work with.
Mm-hmm. Tell me what it's like working with a teenage athlete. First thought in my head is high ego, highly motivated, but I got it all figured out. Not so?
Not so with the teenagers that I work with, because these are athletes that are trying to get into, whether it's the professional forum or whether it's into a college that scouts are looking at them. So they know that if they don't take it to the next level, they're not going to make it. And this is where
need you.
They need me. And what I explained to them, I said, it's a weeding out process. If you don't take it now, you will be weeded out.
Oh.
And someone will take your place.
Mm-hmm. Now, do the parents find you, or are you sought after by their coaches? How do kids find you?
Actually, it's all of the above. Their parents will seek me out, or word of mouth, online, through their coaches. The network in the athletic community is far and wide, but very connected.
Mm-hmm. So when a client, an athlete comes to you, what is it exactly that they want from you? No quick fix, but what is it that they want from you?
What they want is to increase their performance, and they're not aware of what they exactly need to do. They know something's wrong. Somebody has pointed it out. Internally, they may recognize that they're not performing to the level they need to, but someone definitely has pointed out that they could do better. How would you like a real-life example of that?
I would love that. Okay.
So I have an athlete that I work with. He's a professional baseball player, and he came to me because he had a head concussion. He was running around the plates, collided into the catcher with his head, and received a serious head concussion. At that moment in time, he was treated. He was released, and he was told he could go back, no concussion, nothing showing that would stop it. Everything's fine, nothing stopping his performance. Except for this is what happened. Every time he went out there to play, he felt himself being pulled back. He wasn't able to perform the way he wanted to perform originally.
A little bit of anxiety.
Even more than anxiety, Lynn, because more than anxiety is that, again, these players have been playing since they were knee-high. They know how to play the game. They know how to push the limits. But there's something that happens internally that they don't have control over.
So now your tools, through a series of whatever it is that you do, and we'll talk about that, helps them discover this, and then they work through it.
They identify it.
They
Absolutely.
identify it.
Yes.
Going back to the baseball player, what did it feel like when he overcame this block?
It was amazing. And I get to experience it with him because they let me know how their performance has just skyrocketed. Once that they're able to overcome and unlock that block, it takes it to a whole new level of playing.
And does it take a long time?
It depends on the individual.
So that's part of the program that you put together per athlete, is it's a 3-week program, it's a 6-week program, it's custom.
It's definitely custom.
What does it feel like when you see the breakthrough with an athlete you're working with? I can only imagine it's thrilling.
It is beyond thrilling. It is they have worked so hard to get to that level of performance if it's a professional athlete in their career. Mm-hmm. And so when they have a block and they're stopped at that level of performance, it's really disheartening to them. It's everything they've worked their entire life to get to. Right. So to see them and experience them overcoming that is beyond amazing.
And they just are, that creates some momentum, I would think, and they just continue getting better and better.
Absolutely. They just continue to thrive from that point forward.
You have several areas of expertise or specialties, and one of the techniques that you use is, I just learned this, is called brain spotting. It's a very strange term, but tell me, I know it's not strange, but what does it mean?
Brain spotting is a very unique, it's a very cutting edge technique that's used. We identify where the athlete has the block internally, which is really in their nervous system, and we do this through eye movement.
Talk about the fight or flight. You used that as an example when we were off camera.
Excellent.
That's kind of an example of how our brain works?
Yes. When we experience the threat, we either move towards it or move away, right?
Yes.
Well, when you can't do either of those, it gets frozen in our system, which is really our nervous system. Mm-hmm. So if you have an athlete and they have experienced out on the field, let's say a trauma, they've been injured, they can't move away from it, the ball's coming to them, or they crash into another player, they can't stop it. That event gets frozen in their system internally. Mm. So every time they go back out onto that field or their playing environment, the body remembers it. We take in information on a daily basis. We have since we were little. That information is processed through our brain and it's channeled down into our body and our nervous system. Well, anything that we've experienced that was unpleasant kind of becomes stuck in our system, so to speak. And it becomes like an imprint on our nervous system, and then we just continue to build on those imprints, and those become blocks that get stuck in our system. The body is like a scoreboard. Mm-hmm. It keeps track of everything that has happened in your entire life. So think about it when you're working with an athlete, all their experiences. So we would just isolate it to sports, and any of those experiences, in our field, we call them traumas. So it could be a sports trauma, and that trauma could be a physical trauma. It could be an emotional trauma. It could be a mental trauma. Anything of that nature that was stored in their system stays stored until we unlock it. If an athlete, let's use the one of the baseball player I worked with. So this gentleman has been playing sports since he was knee-high. He's a pro baseball player. He knows how to play. He knows how to run around that field. He's done it 1,000,000 times. Mm-hmm. On this particular day, he runs around the field and he collides with the catcher and he gets a concussion. So now, remember, the body keeps a score for everything. Mm-hmm. Every time he goes back on in that field, the body remembers exactly what happened. Even though he's trying to push his body to the maximum performance, the body is remembering when he goes around third base what happened there. And every time he goes around, he can try and push through it, but the body is going to hold back and be a little bit resistant than before the incident happened. So what we do is we go in and we process that specific incident out of the system with brain spotting. Mm-hmm.
This process that you just described, is it a one-time session, or do people have to come back several times?
Actually, I get asked that question quite a bit. Most athletes begin to feel some results after the first session. However, it takes about 1 to 3 before you begin to really feel that you're unlocking that block internally. Mm-hmm. And the best word that can describe what they feel is usually they say, I feel a shift. And they'll know it. They notice it. They feel it internally. There's a shift that begins to happen. And then after we've worked 1 or 2 sessions, they'll go out and now they're going to implement and see if their performance has begun to shift in that direction of peak performance.
And then when they feel it, they're just like, woohoo.
It all locks in.
Oh my gosh.
The body wants alignment. It doesn't want to hold on to those blocks that are not serving it. So the body wants to release it, it just doesn't know how. And I become the conduit to help them let it flow and release.
We've talked a little bit about baseball. Mm-hmm. You've alluded to the ice skating rink, but tell me some of the other sports that you work with and some of the circumstances.
Well, golf is a good example. Are you familiar with the yips?
No, yips.
Are you not a golfer?
I'm not a golfer.
Well, yips can happen in baseball as well, but the yips are when you go out. An example would be you're going to putt, and every time you go to putt, you miss it.
It doesn't sound good.
No, it's not good. Golfers do not want to experience it, neither do baseball players. So if you're a golfer and you go out there and you're playing, and every time you go and you're familiar with the course, but the last time you were there, you just couldn't get it in. You just did terrible. And you walk away and you feel like, I can't go out on the golf course ever again. The humiliation has set in, right?
Yes.
Now remember I told you the body keeps a scoreboard? It remembers that event. The next time you go out there, the body's triggered by that experience. So even though you try and talk yourself out of it in that I'm going to perform better this time, I'm going to do it better, but the body keeps remember what you did last time.
I remember.
Exactly. And so what we do is we take and we isolate that incident again, and we go into processing, brain spotting that specific incident. So because golf's a mental game, right? So going into what's the emotion that's coming up when you're going to putt. For the most part, in anything we do, it's emotion. And that's where our blocks kind of start happening, is in the emotional piece of our brain.
We don't want to feel bad. We don't want to feel failure.
Right. So what do? We avoid it. Or we try and talk ourselves through pushing through it. And all we do is skirt the issue instead of going in and removing it. Removing the obstacle, we just kind of dance around it. And brain spotting removes it. Have you ever watched a game or you're with a group of people and they're hollering and shouting and they're trying to talk to the athlete in the television and tell him what he needs to do different, or she?
Yes.
Have you ever heard that?
Oh,
and one of the things they say is they need to get their head back in the game. At some point, the athlete has shifted and emotion has come up. And they're playing out of emotion rather than out of the front part of their brain, the thinking part. And when an emotion creeps up, it interferes with your ability to achieve peak performance. So one of the things that we want to do is tap into that place where the emotion got locked in. Athletes are no different than you and I, Lynn. They have life issues just like you and I have. And sometimes those life experiences show up on their field. Does that make sense?
It does, and we have to get those away.
Absolutely. They can be going through the life experiences that you and I have. They have children, they have families. All of those experiences, what they don't want to bring onto the field, sometimes are brought onto the field. So if it's not a sports injury, there can be other things that you had talked about earlier that can come out of processing, that they're thinking it's just about sports performance, but it's all interrelated.
It's all interrelated.
Right.
Yeah. Now, their coaches may recognize, dude, something's wrong. Your head isn't in the game. And that's when they might call you.
They're going to reach out. Absolutely. The coaches are going to be their first line of defense in identifying that athlete has an issue in performance. And at that point, they're going to reach out to others that are experts to help them overcome that obstacle in their performance and help them reach.
You are the expert.
Yes. So sports performance is a very hot topic right now.
And it seems like people are recognizing that an athlete needs a support team, not just a coach, not just a mom and dad.
That's exactly what an athlete does. They have a team of experts that help them to become the best they can be. However, when they're not performing to their maximum potential, they seek alternative experts to help them reach that.
The QLP Academy, Quantum Leap Performance Academy, I'm understanding that it isn't just you, it's a team.
That's right.
So if I were an athlete coming to you for help, I'm going to get what?
I'm a very big supporter of having a team to get you the results that you need to get as an athlete. So we have mental performance coaches, we have nutritionists, we have sports trainers, we have fitness trainers, all experts that an athlete needs to help them take their performance to the next level.
And I would think that would be very comforting or very logical if I were an athlete to know that if I came to you, Haleh, that I would have all these other professionals under one roof that might be able to collaborate, discuss me as an athlete, and create a unified process? Would that
That's
work?
a great example of what we do, Lynn. We do that absolutely, is having a team of people that assess where your needs are not being met, where your blocks are, and utilizing that to the best of our ability in helping you achieve maximum performance.
Now tell me, do you just work in the Tampa area, or are you a traveling company?
Well, we are primarily based in Tampa. However, we travel national and international, working with athletes all over the world. Our team will travel wherever that the client is based if they aren't able to come to Tampa.
Peak performance is sort of a buzzword right now. And there's probably lots of degrees of accomplishment within that field, that professional field. If I were looking for a peak performance coach for my child, or if I were in college looking for one myself, what would some of the things be that I would need to look at in finding one?
That's an excellent question. Well, the first place you'd like to look is quantumleapacademy.com.
Yes, of course.
But if you couldn't find that by any chance, you would want to make sure that the person was credentialed in experience. For example, I have a doctorate in psychology. My background is, with regard to brain spotting, is really the practice of neuropsychology. You're getting in there, you're working with the brain. That's not the average coach out there.
Does a client who wants to come to you, or an athlete that would like to come to you, do they have to be something special or have any special qualifications to use your services? Like at a certain level?
Well, Lynn, I think all the clients that come are special. So,
Oh, that's nice.
But they don't have to have any type of special background. They don't have to be a special professional athlete. Is that what you're kind of
I
implying?
think so. Or at a certain level, anybody could just come to you that wants to be better.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They don't have to be at any level. It's someone who's wanting to improve where they're at. So they have a measure of where they're at and they're wanting to take it to the next level.
Okay, so what you just said is important. They have a measure of where they are right now, and they just know that they want to take it to the next level. And for whatever reason, there's something that's stopping them, and they would call you.
Athletes know when they're not performing at their optimal level. So when an athlete is aware of that, they usually try and seek out someone that can help take it to the next level.
Have you ever seen, or does this happen, that an athlete is in a pro environment and they're going along and they're doing great, and all of a sudden they just go right into the tank?
All the time.
And when they're down there, they're saying, help, I need help.
Help. Absolutely.
And they would call you.
And that's what absolutely. They're very connected. They know what they need to do, and they're aware when it's not happening. So it's rare for an athlete not to try and increase their performance. Now, when you're talking about high school, they may not be as aware as the professional athlete, because the professional athlete has a team that's constantly scrutinizing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Where the college athlete, they would have that team as well. However, high school wouldn't be as in-depth a team. So then you have the parents that are observing the child's not playing the way they need to play. Does that kind of make sense?
It does.
Right.
Does.
And at some point, someone is noticing that their performance isn't where it needs to be. They know what they're capable of.
And you step in.
And then we step in.
And do you have a personal favorite sport that you work with?
Oh, that's a great question. I could never confess to that because I work with some great athletes and they're all my favorites.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right thing to say on camera. I found this very interesting to learn about your practice. And I'm just wondering, is there anything that we really haven't touched on that you would like the audience to know?
Well, I'm very passionate about the work I do, and the clients know that when I work with them, that I give everything I have to give. I am 100% committed at helping them achieve the results they came to Quantum Leap Academy to get.
So, Haleh, it sounds like in working with athletes, you come to people that have issues, you see tremendous results. What do you find absolutely most gratifying about what you do?
Well, I'm very passionate. I love the work I do. Probably the most gratifying experience for me is seeing the athlete achieve the results. The other piece of that is their commitment level and motivation to do that. They'll do whatever it takes. That's extremely gratifying to me. So it's not like you're having to push something or somebody to do the work. they're completely 100% committed to doing what they need to do.
Have you ever had someone, let's say a kid from high school or beginning college, go through several years and then call you back later and say, Haleh, I just made my first touchdown, or I just did 3 home runs, or share their success with you?
I received a phone call last week from a young athlete that I had worked with when he was in high school, and now he is in college playing ball, and he's phenomenal, and telling me how much he appreciated the work that we had done. It's not easy work, it's hard work, but he was really grateful that he had done it and glad that we worked together.
Oh, that must have just made you feel so proud and just happy for him.
Very fulfilling.
Yeah?
Yes.
You'll probably stay in touch with some of your, they're really not patients, they're clients. Do you call your
Absolutely, they're clients.
Okay, they're your clients. You'll probably stay in touch with many of them for years and years.
You develop such an intimate connection with them when you're working one-on-one like that, that it's really becomes a connection that continues to grow, and people do stay connected.
Mm-hmm. Without sharing any names, and I know confidentiality is a very big thing in your field, in anybody's field actually, is there any one success story that you just sort of hang on to? We'd love to know who it is, but we can't know who it is. But is there anything that stands out in your career that you just kind of go, yeah, I did that?
I have one recently. I have several, but one that's just coming to mind because he just recently got traded to an amazing team, and he was so gracious to call me up and tell me that if it wasn't for the work we had done, he probably wouldn't be where he was. And this is a gentleman who is just got the biggest heart ever.
If someone is watching the show and they really would like to have an initial consultation with you, how would they reach you?
The best way to reach me would be through our website at quantumleapperformanceacademy.com or qlpacademy.com.
Okay. For all the athletes out there that may be on the fence about taking their game to the next level, give them a little bit of encouragement. What would you say to them?
For all those athletes that are wanting to take their game to the next level, I say contact QLP Academy, because we will help you take it to the next level.
You've been watching Experts and Authorities with Haleh Damavandi, a peak performance expert and founder of Quantum Leap Performance Academy in Tampa, Florida. I'm Lynn Hawks, your host. Bye for now.